You open your brokerage app. You've been investing for 2 years. Consistent, disciplined, never missed a month. And the number staring back at you is $9,400. You do the math in your head. 2 years, thousands of dollars, and you have less than 10 grand to show for it. So you start asking dangerous questions. Is this even worth it? Am I doing something wrong? Should I just stop? And here is where most people quit. Right before the game actually starts. Because nobody told you the truth about compounding. They sold you the dream version. The smooth, beautiful exponential curve on the whiteboard. The retirement calculator that shows you turning $500 a month into $1.2 million. What they didn't show you is the part at the beginning. The part that looks almost completely flat. The part that feels like a punishment for doing everything right. Charlie Munger, one of the greatest financial minds who ever lived, said it plainly. The first $100,000 is a bitch. He was not being dramatic. He was telling you the most important mathematical truth in personal finance. And today, we are going to prove it with cold numbers. My name is Jack, and I spend way too much time obsessing over the invisible equations that govern our lives. If you've been investing for months or even years and you feel like you have nothing to show for it, like the math is somehow broken, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because today we are performing a forensic audit on the compounding curve, the part they never zoom into, the brutal, unglamorous beginning that separates the people who build real wealth from the people who give up 6 feet from the gold. Every personal finance class shows you the same chart. A beautiful curve, starts low, ends with a hockey stick shooting into the sky. They zoom out so far that the first decade looks like a flat line at the bottom. That's not a design choice, that is a psychological operation. Because if they zoomed in on those first years, showed you what the curve actually looks like on the ground, you would see something that looks less like a rocket ship and more like a slow crawl across wet concrete. Let's run the numbers. And I mean actually run them. Assume you invest $500 a month. You earn 8% annually, a reasonable, historically grounded number for a broad index fund. Year 1, you invest $6,000. You earn roughly $240 in returns. Total, $6,240. Year 2, you invest another $6,000. You earn roughly $740 in returns. Total, $12,980. Year 3, total, $20,300. Returns that year, about $980. You are 3 years in, 36 months of discipline, and the market has handed you less than $1,000 in a single year. This is not a malfunction. This is the math working exactly as designed. But here's the trap. The human brain was not designed to appreciate invisible momentum. We were built to respond to visible feedback. And in the early years of compounding, the feedback is nearly invisible, so people quit. Not because the strategy is broken, but because the timeline is longer than their patience. Here is where it gets forensic. The percentage is not the enemy. The base is. This is the single most misunderstood concept in early investing. Let me show you what I mean. You have $10,000 invested. The market returns 8%. You earn $800 that year. Now, someone else has $500,000 invested. Same market, same 8%. They earn $40,000 that year. Same percentage, different universe. That person did not work harder. They did not find a better stock. They did not have a superior strategy. They simply had a bigger base. This is what Charlie Munger understood at a molecular level. The percentage is a multiplier, and a multiplier applied to a small number will always produce a small number. 8% of nothing is nothing. This is why the first $100,000 is the hardest dollar you will ever earn in an investing context. Not because it requires the most work, but because the base is too small for the percentage to produce anything psychologically meaningful. You are essentially building a machine. And in the early phase, every dollar you put in goes toward building the machine itself. The machine produces almost no output yet. It cannot. It is not big enough. But people don't think in machines. They think in immediate returns. And when the machine produces $800 after a year of sacrifice, they dismantle it. Now, I want to show you something that will genuinely disturb you if you look at it long enough. In the early years of your investment journey, you are the compounding engine, not the market. Let's go back to our example. $500 a month, 8% returns. In year one, your total portfolio growth is roughly $6,240. Of that, $6,000 came from your own pocket, your own labor, your own sacrifice. The market contributed $240. The market's contribution, about 4% of the total growth. Your contribution, about 96%. You are doing almost all of the work. The market is barely a participant. Now fast forward to year 15. Same $500 a month, same 8%. By this point, your portfolio is sitting around $170,000. That year, your contributions are still $6,000. But the market's contribution returns on the existing base is roughly $12,800. Now, the math has flipped. The market is contributing twice as much as you are. You are no longer the primary engine. You have built something that earns money while you sleep. But year 15 is the reward for surviving years 1 through 5. And here's the brutal part. Most people never survive years 1 through 5. Not because they run out of money, because they run out of belief. The data from Vanguard, Fidelity, and Schwab consistently shows the same pattern. Massive outflows from retail brokerage accounts during market downturns. People liquidating, people taking a break, people deciding the machine isn't working. Always in years 1 through 7, almost never in years 10 through 20. By year 10, the machine is producing enough visible output that people can finally feel it. The feedback loop becomes real. The tragedy is the years they threw away before they could feel it. This one is modern, and it is lethal. Compounding is a long game. It has always been a long game. It was a long game in 1950, and it was a long game in 1990. But in 1990, you were not watching a 24-year-old on your phone telling you they turned $8,000 into $380,000 in 11 months trading options. You were not seeing the highlight reel of someone else's financial life in real time, every single day. This is a new form of psychological warfare that the math of compounding was never designed to survive. Because compounding requires something that social media systematically destroys. It requires the ability to tolerate boredom and invisibility. Every month you invest and see marginal growth, your brain receives a quiet signal. This isn't working. And then you open Instagram or YouTube and see someone else hitting a number in a week that would take you 4 years. The comparison virus doesn't just feel bad. It distorts your risk tolerance. It pushes people toward lottery ticket investments, crypto moonshots, meme stocks, zero DTE options, not because they are greedy, but because the psychological pain of slow, invisible compounding combined with visible evidence of faster alternatives breaks people's ability to stay the course. The system did not design this trap intentionally, but it is a trap nonetheless, and the people who escape it do not do so by having stronger willpower. They do so by understanding the math well enough to emotionally inoculate themselves against the noise. So how do you actually survive the flatline? First, reframe the goal. Stop measuring your success by portfolio balance. Measure it by base construction. Every dollar you add to that base is a worker you have permanently hired. That worker will show up every day for the rest of your life. Rain or shine, market crash or bull run. They never call in sick. They never demand a raise. Your job in years 1 through 7 is not to get rich. Your job is to hire as many workers as possible. The return on your investment in those early years is almost entirely irrelevant. The base is everything. Second, kill the dashboard addiction. Checking your portfolio daily in the early years is like watching grass grow and getting angry when it looks the same as yesterday. The checking behavior creates anxiety. The anxiety creates doubt. The doubt creates the urge to act. And acting in the early years of a long-term compounding strategy is almost always destructive. Set a monthly review. One time. 30 minutes. That is it. Third, change your milestone psychology. The conventional milestone is $1 million. The number society has decided means you made it. Burn that milestone. Your first real milestone is $25,000 because that is where the market's contribution starts to become visible. Your second milestone is $100,000. because this is where Munger's law kicks in, where the machine starts to pull its own weight, where your monthly contributions are no longer the dominant growth driver. Your third milestone is $250,000, because this is where compounding starts to feel genuinely unfair in your favor. You do not need to see the finish line. You need to see the next marker on the track. And fourth, and this is the most contrarian thing I will say today, boring is the strategy, not a component of the strategy. The strategy itself. The people who built generational wealth through compounding did not do it by finding the best stocks, the best funds, the perfect entry point. They did it by being aggressively, stubbornly, almost pathologically boring for decades. Wide index funds, automatic contributions, refusing to react. Boring, boring, boring. Until one day the machine is so large that the returns in a single year exceed what most people earn from working. That is the destination. And the only road that reliably leads there is the one that looks, for a very long time, like it's going nowhere. Charlie Munger made his first million before the age of 40, and he spent decades watching people sabotage themselves at the starting line. He didn't call the first $100,000 a bitch to be provocative. He called it that because he had watched up close over a lifetime how many brilliant, hardworking, well-intentioned people quit during the flatline. They quit during the part that looks like failure, but is actually foundation. Don't be the person who dismantles the machine before it runs. Build the base. Trust the math. Survive the boring years. I'm Jack, and I'll see you in the next one.